The Principal Skills Blueprint, Chapter 6, really starting to take a look now at some of the necessary skills in our diversity effort in order to be successful. And these principal skills are inter and intrapersonal skills that I think are extremely important. Communication is one of those, negotiation is the second one. The third one is facilitation, and the last one that we look at is implementation. And we've kind of spoken to communication and implementation previously, but now we're kind of putting them into a skills blueprint and a skills toolbox for you so that you can identify them and draw on them as you might need them to help you, whether you're implementing programs, developing a diversity effort, educating yourself or your organization on diversity, or whatever you may be doing. So communication, how important is communication in diversity? Well, it's extremely important because we have a cross-cultural workplace that we're operating within now, and there are a lot of barriers in the workplace, some subtle, some not so subtle. And we need to practice active listening in communication, which is a key component of communication. And then be aware of making assumptions when you have a culturally rich or diverse organization that you're operating within. So, from a communication standpoint, what are some of the essential things to look at or components as it relates to the principal skills blueprint? Listening, there are different listening styles. Communication culturally or across cultures is extremely important because a lot of times there's difficulty in expression. And then interpersonal skills, building positive relationships, managing conflict effectively. I want to highlight listening skills because one of the things that we in the workplace can do a lot better in is understanding listening skills. People-oriented listening skills really are concerned with creating relationships. They have a sensitivity to feeling, and they really speak to a different way to be able to listen. Action-oriented listening styles or skills really are concerned with task, and they have a sensitivity to taking care of business. When we talk about content-oriented listening styles or skills, we're really talking about a concern with analysis and the sensitivity to detail. And last but not least, time-oriented listening styles or skills are concerned with efficiency and the ability to have sensitivity to whether or not one is going to be patient. So think about when you're listening, you probably listen in one of these four categories. What's important in the 21st century workplace is to understand that you need to develop listening skills for all of these types of categories that we've listed here. Okay? A little bit more on communication and culture. There are differences between communication and culture. The style of communication can be different based upon gender, age, ethnicity, a number of different things. But more importantly, it makes it difficult for us to listen effectively. There also can be barriers between culture and communication. So impediments that really make it difficult to listen from an environmental, attitudinal, or sociocultural perspective. But we really need to ask ourselves, why is it so difficult to blend diversity or culture and communication? And that's because I think, again, we're not effectively listening or attempting to listen in a way that allows us to learn and then to grow and develop. Interpersonal communication, we like for it in the workplace to be kind of cooperative, or at least from a predictable standpoint, and we want to make sure that the behavior is collaborative. We appreciate a little bit of healthy competition, and we want people, when they're communicating, to be engaged, to think in terms of, you're talking about change, so how can you become effective as a change agent in your organization? How do you develop those interpersonal skills? Let's move on to negotiation. So it's really imperative in our diverse workforce today for success. And so negotiation is about preparation, making sure that we are ready, have done our homework, put ourselves in a position to be successful within our individual or collective group goals. It's also about leverage. So how do we use the strengths in order to leverage them in a way that puts us on a path towards success? And then it's about strategy and gamesmanship. So being able to develop these prior to you even going into the negotiation itself. Facilitation, Really, if we understand facilitation, it's about participation and how we get people motivated to participate toward our goals that we want them to achieve. And then skill development when we look at facilitation, because it is almost like an art form. How prepared are we? There's that word again, preparation, in order to ultimately be measured in the facilitation that we might provide. And so, how do we get people motivated from a facilitation standpoint? Well, you really have to put in a reward system that you're going to design and then share with the rest of the organization. So the reward doesn't have to be something that is monetary in nature. It more has to be something that is shared and has transparency to all, and then that people can build upon and grow. A lot of the reward systems that we see today in the workplace from a facilitation standpoint are too short term. They don't have enough time and enough effort to sustain themselves over time. So what do? We change them. That doesn't allow people to get comfortable or to get at a point where they understand them. So the next time you change them, they're not going to necessarily be as engaged as you'd like for them to be. So I'll give you an example from a facilitation standpoint of what it would take to kind of look at facilitating a meeting. So you need to look at some of the meeting planning items that come into effect. The audience. So who are we speaking to and why? What research have we done in order to make sure that we facilitate well? The purpose of the meeting. So why are we in the meeting? Current state. So where are we currently in the operation? And what preparation do you do in order to make that obvious to all participants? The desired state. Where would we like to be, not only 6 months down the line, but just as importantly, at the end of the meeting? Who are the participants and what are their roles? How will we make decisions? How is the work going to be distributed? And then the summarization. When we close the meeting, what are the next steps? On the far right hand, you can see the facilitation skills necessary to pull off an effective meeting. And of course, a lot of times today we're in meetings that are not necessarily effective. And part of that might be based upon the way that they are facilitated. And then implementation. So implementation, there's a process where we look at the strategy, which really gets into how we deliver our vision, where's the ownership, and then communication again comes up. It's about then tactics, making sure it's clear about what we want to achieve, if there's alignment between the task and the people completing the task, and whether or not there's enough flexibility there, and then the actionable steps that we take. Needing to be team-oriented and opportunistic, as well as measurable at just about every point of implementation. So here are some definitions that might be beneficial for you. Communication, exchanging information for persuasive interpersonal skills or as a function of those. Facilitation, and looking at things from a standpoint of being able to effectively facilitate where you want to go, how you want to go there, and how you want to be able to take people in that realm. Implementation, taking actionable steps toward determined goals and objectives. Negotiation, a discussion with the aim of resolving a difference of opinion or dispute, or to settle the terms of an agreement or transaction. So take a look at these and make sure you understand how they can operate and work for you, as they are primary, fundamental, principal skills necessary from an interpersonal standpoint to help make us successful in the diverse workplace today. So what did we learn? Well, we learned about these 4 elements, and we want to look at how they might be able to help us with our diversity effort, our diversity program, our diversity plans. And how do we implement in a successful way by utilizing these particular skills and becoming not just good at them, but becoming proficient at them. Here is your thought for the day. Success in life is a matter not so much of talent or opportunity as of concentration and perseverance.